Oh boy, we have waited a very long time for this night. Arizona takes on Florida. Let's talk about it.
Welcome on in, everybody, to the AZ Wildcats podcast, coming to you live from Studio K, presented by our friends over at Circle K. I am, of course, Damon Fairall. That is Kevin Thomas. We are the AZ Wildcats pod, and we are blessed, Kevin Thomas, to be bringing you some Arizona basketball coverage here on a Monday. A Victory Monday, I might add, if you're an Arizona football fan as well. Of course, we'll be talking about that all throughout the week, but it is basketball time tonight, and we got the reigning champs on the agenda.
Checking my countdown, we're 0 days until Arizona tips off the regular season against the defending national champion Florida Gators. It is going to be an absolute marquee matchup tonight in so many ways, Damon. And to help us preview it, we do have Tyler Rucker of One No Ceilings co-foundership. Very generous with his time today on a game day, helping us out by previewing this matchup. But before we do get to that, Damon, this is the time of the year. It truly is. Basketball is back. College football is going. NFL is going. MLB just ended. I hate the Dodgers. There's so much going on. Thank you all for joining us to preview this matchup. And if you are not familiar with the Florida Gators, the defending national champions, let us help you out. And let's just go ahead and get started with Unpacked. Damon.
Let's unpack it, Kevin. How about that fresh little graphic for a fresh new basketball season? But Kevin, we do have to learn about some of these more notable Florida Gators players, including a couple of them that were key cogs in their national championship last year, as well as some high-profile transfers. But let's see what we got from a Florida perspective here. Speaking of one of those high-profile transfers, how about Boogie Fland, transfer from Arkansas, played under Coach Calipari last year at Arkansas, and was a pretty damn good player in the process, 13.5 points per game, 5.1 assists, albeit, not the most efficient player in college basketball, extremely skilled, a guy that, I think is one of the more high-profile guard transfers in the entire country this year, and he joins a team that is ready-made and ready to go.
He really does. Boogie Fland and Xavian Lee is not on that graphic, but that is his new backcourt member that they also got out of the transfer portal. One of the most productive players in college basketball last year, coming to the Gators from Princeton as we move into the next unpacked card here. Alex Condon, the Condor himself, stands to be a huge impact in that Florida front court, standing next to Ruben Chinyelu tonight. Alex Condon, 10.6 points per game last year, 7.5 rebounds per game. This Florida Gators team, a very strong rebounding group, both offensively and defensively. Arizona's going to have to get after it tonight, Damon.
Yeah, absolutely. And then moving on to Thomas Houck here, Kevin, this is a guy who, and you'll hear us talk about it here with Tyler Rucker in just a few minutes. This is a guy who is a versatile big man, while he has a 6'9", 215-pound frame, that he definitely plays probably a little bit smaller. You know what I mean? And I do think that he is one of those guys for a Florida team that is going to provide matchup problems all season long because he's 6'9". He's going to play a little bit of a big three from time to time. Definitely more of a natural four, but I do think that this Florida team in general is just extremely big, right? And that's going to give a lot of teams trouble all season long. But one thing that Arizona has on its side in this matchup is that they can kind of match that size with a Florida team that I'm not sure that there's going to be too many teams the rest of the way that really can truly do that. So, while Florida might be a little bit more battle tested, while they might have, a little bit more experience in the big game department here, Kevin, especially with so many freshmen on the Arizona side, I do think that Arizona matches up fairly decent against, a pretty high floor Florida team. Like, I know that that's not exactly a hot take, but it feels like even if Florida is not the national champion contender that they were last year and ultimately the national champs, They're going to be a damn good basketball team pretty much no matter what.
Totally agree with you. And as we look one more time at our Unpacked from today, shout out to graphics lead Noah for this beautiful graphic. I want to point out Thomas Haug, who is going to be playing the small forward tonight. It looks like the 3 for Florida, and he's a pretty oversized 3 in terms of the way he plays, like you said also. But I want to point out his stats. 9.8 points, 6.1 rebounds last year. A lot of the games he came off the bench, and in his brief amount of time that he did start, he was incredibly productive at a much higher level. So I would anticipate his stats this year to be a lot better than that 9.8 and 6.1 number that you saw from last year. Florida is a very, very strong team, Damon, and it's going to take a very high-level effort from Arizona to get this one done.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin, let me ask you this. We've talked a little bit about the idea of can Koa Pete play a big 3? Do you think we see that tonight against Thomas Haug?
I'm sure you will see it in points tonight. I think, we talked about this on McHale Madness. Make sure to check that out once a week as well. But it feels like Delhi is going to get that nod at the 3 going into this one, but you could see a supersized version of Arizona's lineup at spurts in this one with not only Krivas, but Awaka and Pete out there. This roster has a lot of versatility, specifically in the front court, and I think it has a lot of chances to match up with Florida size-wise, but most importantly, physicality-wise in this one. Koa Pete, a freshman, but he is not built like a first-year college basketball player. He's built like a first-year NBA player, to be quite honest with you, maybe even a second or third-year NBA player with the muscles he has on him. So it feels like even if Arizona's outmatched at times in size with this one in the front court, they will not be matched or should not be outmatched in the physicality department, Damon. But this is a huge game. I wanted to ask you, Damon, because you are, I feel like, you have a great thumb on the pulse of each fan base, that we face as Arizona fans. Mm-hmm. This game is in Vegas at T-Mobile Arena, the home to a ton of huge events out there in Vegas. How do you anticipate the crowd being? We know Arizona fans travel, and they travel really well, especially out here on the West Coast. Do you think the Florida fans make it a fight in terms of fan support?
Yeah, I mean, I think Florida, it's going to be interesting because we know Arizona fans are going to show up. Florida fans, I think, probably travel extremely well. Obviously, we don't have a ton of back and forth with them. You're not playing them in too many sports, but I got to imagine that there's a good crew of Florida fans that are already in Vegas and that it's easy for Florida fans to bite the bullet and pay a little bit extra just to have a good time for a couple of days out there. But again, I just think that the Arizona thing it's a given. Arizona fans are going to show out. There's going to be Arizona chants inside of that building. I would imagine that it's a home field advantage for the Cats tonight, but maybe not like a Pac-12 tournament style home field advantage, home court advantage, where it feels like every single person in that building is an Arizona fan. This feels like Florida's going to get some decent numbers in there, but Arizona is. I mean, we own Vegas. It's McHale North for a reason, right?
Yeah, McHale the Northest, I guess you could say, because real McHale North is in Phoenix, and we know that much. But moving into our keys for this one, because keep in mind we do have Tyler Rucker of No Ceilings NBA coming on at the tail end of this pregame show to help us preview this matchup and give his evaluations of Arizona's freshmen as a whole. Let's talk some keys, Damon, dog. Let's talk the keys to the game that I put together for this matchup with Florida. Key number 1, you got to dominate and win. I shouldn't say dominate, but you have to win the front court battle, and a huge part of that is going to be Matthias Krivas playing about as dominant as he possibly can tonight. I think that this is a huge opportunity for him to really showcase his skills and quiet a lot of the, I won't say haters because I don't really consider myself a Matthias Krivas hater, but quiet a lot of his critics, I think. He has a huge opportunity tonight to do that. Tobe Awaka has a big opportunity to showcase the growth that he has given himself this year with the game. He has talked about being more assertive, being more aggressive, flowing in the offensive system a lot better. I anticipate Tobe Awaka to play a big role in this one for Arizona's front court as well. Key number 2, the freshmen have to step up. Now, I'm not saying, be very clear, I'm not saying the freshmen have to lead the way in this game. They do not. Braden Burries should not, and Koa Pete should not have to lead the way in this one for Arizona to win. They need to step up, though. And by that, I mean, in order to beat the defending national champion, you have to play up to a certain level, right? And I think the freshmen for Arizona, this is another big opportunity for them as well. Tons of huge opportunities scattered all about in this one. It feels like if you're Koa Pete, if you're Braden Burries, this is your first real chance for the Arizona Wildcats to show your level, to show that, hey, Yes, we are 5 stars, but we're just not your average 5 stars. We're here and we're difference makers. This freshman class is incredibly special, and this is their opportunity to really set themselves apart on night one, on probably the biggest stage you're going to see early on in the college basketball season, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think that on top of that, to the point that Roberto is making here in the chat, it's not just about Braden Burries and Koa Pete. It's also about Dwayne Aristote. It's also about Ivan Karchenkov, because those guys, for me, are almost the wild cards of Arizona's entire season. If those dudes end up, kind of at the level or surpassing the level that Arizona fans expected out of them coming into this season, I think that could change the ceiling on this team, right? Because say Dwayne Aristote I think we all expect him to be a really good two-way player, someone that you can trust out on the floor when you need to stop, right? But it's going to be about, how does he kind of fit into that offensive flow? Can he hit an open three-pointer when you kick it out to him? If he shoots a decent percentage from three, I mean, that's going to change everything with the way that you have to guard Koa Pete, the way you have to guard Mo Krivos inside. Same with Ivan Karchenkov. Just an extra ball handler, right, for Arizona to mess with. You already have Jaden Bradley. You already have Braden Burries. You expect both of those guys to be by far the majority of the ball handling reps of the offense, right? But then you have this 6'7" German-Russian super soldier that you could throw in who has a handle as well, and it adds just an extra element of something. So for me, I think that those other two freshmen are going to be huge bench pieces all season long, and really kind of change the psyche of an Arizona fan of like how truly far can this team go, right?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I think it's a very good point that you and Roberto bring up about the freshmen coming off the bench. In terms of stepping up, you could argue that they have to play at the level more so than Koa Pete or Braden Burries do, because I think we know that they're closer to playing at that level than maybe the other two freshmen are, Damon. Moving into our third key, don't chase the game. And I'm not saying that Arizona has to come out and get out to a 15-point lead, a 15-0 run to start it, although that would be absolutely incredible for all the Wildcat fans across the globe. However, you're playing the defending national champions on the biggest game of opening day for college basketball. This cannot be a situation where Arizona has to play catch-up for the majority of this one. It feels like you have to keep it close or have a lead for the majority of this game in order to have a chance in this game. We're talking about freshmen stepping up. The best way to do that is not put them in a position to where they feel like, oh, now I really got to push. Now I really got to play my perfect game because we're down 8 and we're down 10 and now we're down 12. You cannot chase this game. Got to keep it within striking distance at all times if you're going to upset the defending national champions on the road. And, Damon, are we predicting that they do that as we get into our score predictions? Or should we get shots fired going first?
First off, I want to say I have been told by the upper brass here at PHNX Sports tonight that if we can get one more member, just one more member in this chat, we will have a Tommy Lloyd emoji to drop in the chat. So I know the people that are already members, supporting club members, that is, are fired up to hear something like that. So do them a solid, sign up, $5 a month, show us just a little bit of extra support, and you can get a really cool Tommy Lloyd emoji in the chat that is going to knock your socks off, to put it lightly, Kevin. But
the Tom emoji.
Yes, the Tom emoji. But we do have some shots fired. We do have some Tyler Rucker, and we do have a score prediction to get to. So, the world is yours. The world's your oyster, Mr. Thomas. You let us know.
Well, you know what direction I want to take this in. Shots fired. We are talking Florida versus Arizona, and we're taking some shots with our friends over at 3 Amigos Tequila. Shout out to them. Shout out to you in the chat. Please leave a like for me and Damon taking a shot
meme
in honor of, that was how Noah Fafita pulled up this past weekend. But, Damon, we do have our Ramona's Reserve over there on the table sitting next to you, and I have it here in my red Solo cup. You have it there in your blue Solo cup.
Can you think of a bigger scumbag than a Florida fan living in Las Vegas? Comment of the night from Max so far. No, to answer your question.
Yeah, no.
That's got to be a mean spray tan. That's got to be a mean spray tan you got going on from Gainesville to Vegas. But, Kevin, what are we firing shots at?
Well, if you want to take your shot, actually, let's just take our shots together real quick. Cheers, 3 Amigos. Cheers to the Arizona Wildcats. And cheers to each and every one of you in the chat right now. Ooh, that is delicious.
That is pretty smooth, actually.
That is very smooth, very sweet, well spiced.
It is.
Absolutely love some Ramona's Reserve. Shout out to our friends over at Three Amigos Tequila. It is.
Yeah, it's good.
It's sweet, smooth, and it's well spiced.
Yeah.
The 3 S's that you want of your tequila. Well, where are my shots fired going? Where is my shots fired going? It's not going to the Florida Gators. You might be thinking, oh, well, you're playing Florida. Don't you want to throw a shot at Florida? No, I do not actually, Damon. I want to throw a shot at the national media, who is about to get put on notice tonight by one Jaden Bradley. My shot is at everybody who made a preseason list and omitted our leader, our general, our point guard, Jaden Bradley. They're going to see tonight why Arizona has one of the best returning point guards in the country, one of the most reliable returning point guards in the country, and a returning point guard for Arizona in Jaden Bradley that has a chance to really elevate his game this year, add some things to his game, and potentially make an NBA roster next year. Those are the dreams that he has, aspirations that he has. So yeah, my shot's fired going to everybody that slept on Jaden Bradley this offseason because this is his first chance to wake him up.
Kevin, I'm a little bit jealous that that's not where my mind went to, because that is a great shots fired to start off the season. But why don't we play a little bit of good cop, bad cop here?
Okay.
Because my shots fired is at you, Mr. Mo Krivas.
Ooh, whoa.
We got a big matchup tonight. Condon on the other side, Thomas Howe.
Chinyalu.
Yeah. It's time for Mo Krivas to step up and show why Tommy Lloyd has put this much trust into him, right? Because Henry Vasar is in North Carolina. He's in Chapel Hill. He's thriving, making probably $7 million or something crazy this year, right? But Mo Krivas, he's still in Tucson with all the trust in the world being put into him. Going to play about 20 minutes per game this season. Time to prove Arizona fans why that belief was warranted. Do it tonight. Do it against a backcourt that was good enough to win a national championship. And really just show everybody that, yeah, that like faith was very warranted from Tommy Lloyd's standpoint.
I love that. A little bit of tough love for Mo Krivas. A little bit of motivation by tough love. Speaking of love, of the sweetest variety, our guy Bill Gons, the Wildcats chatter, has gifted one PHNX MVP membership and AJ86. You have received it. So shout out to Bill. Shout out to AJ. Very, very, very sweet of you, Bill. We appreciate it. And we will make sure the brass knows. Oh, we got a new member, and we need that Tom E emoji in this chat. But we got to get to our score predictions, Damon, before we get to our Tyler Rucker interview. And without any more preamble, this is what we're predicting for tonight's game. I got a W. Damon has a W. That's a double lock. I have it 84-77. Damon, how you breaking it down?
Kevin, I think since we've been doing score predictions for mostly football, to be fair, when both of us are predicting an Arizona W, it typically goes pretty well for Arizona fans. Granted, I am a negative Nancy. But that being said, June, looking at you, I am predicting a W tonight, 81-79. I just think that this game is going to be very 50-50. I think a lot of people are counting Arizona out, and I think that this is the type of game where you can catch a team off guard, a team that lost big pieces from last year, that has a lot of new faces that are going to take high usage up. They're not going to be, super situated playing together, I think, as much as maybe some think. And hopefully Arizona catches them off guard a little bit.
We got the Tom emoji already in the chat. Shout out to head of production Shane Diefenbach for that one. It looks beautiful. But
I got to go check it out.
I do have my score prediction. I think Arizona gets this done. I think their depth, I think their continuity is greater than Florida's continuity. I know that sounds crazy, but I think we're going to see it on the court. Now, there's a chance that Arizona loses this one. I'm not trying to say it's a lock that they're going to win, but I think when me and Damon both predict a win, like you said, feels like a pretty high hit rate, Damon. But let's see what Tyler Rucker has to predict, Damon, because we have Tyler Rucker from No Ceilings NBA helping us preview this one tonight. We got Tyler Rucker of No Ceilings joining us today. Basketball is officially back at the college level, and life has never been sweeter. This is the best time of the season, especially for Arizona Wildcat faithful out there, because hopefully this is the year that Tommy Lloyd breaks through into his first Elite Eight and maybe even his first Final Four. But first off, Tyler, how you doing?
Fantastic. It feels like Christmas morning right now, with college basketball back on the slate. So I'm doing great, and a big game tonight, and I'm excited to talk some hoops with you guys. Thanks for having me on.
And this is a huge measuring stick game tonight for Arizona. But before we do get to that Florida matchup, Let's talk about where the Arizona Wildcats stand in general entering the 2025-26 season. Heavily reliant upon some star freshmen, Pete, Braden Burries, Ivan Karchenkov, Dwayne Aristotle. The list honestly goes on. What do you look at when you see these freshmen? Maybe which one are you highest on going into the year?
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating roster. I think in the previous years, Wildcats fans might have seen that Tommy Lloyd kind of have that veteran roster with a lot of upperclassmen, and it was kind of like, okay, when the freshmen earn the playing time, they'll get on the court. Last year with Carter Bryant, I feel like we all wanted more. We wanted more, and it was like, okay, Tommy's got a plan. This year, it kind of seems like it might shift a little bit, where you're going to have to lean on some of these freshmen early on. So Pete's the big name that is drawing plenty of attention. 6'8", 235. He's tough. He's won at every level, and he's a competitor. So he's going to be someone they're going to have to lean on a little early because of just the physicality, the versatility that he has. He's tough on the board. So had a good FIBA showing overseas this summer. So I think Pete's the big one to look at, but I think Braden Burries is the one scouts are getting really excited about. Good size as ball handler, and I think I know it's exhibition, guys, but he did look pretty good in the preseason. So I think it's going to be really interesting to kind of see what these freshmen look like early on in the year, because scouts are buzzing about this Wildcats team. There's a lot of intrigue, and it's a good mix of, star freshmen, but also some upperclassmen and returners that are ready to make some noise.
Now, Tyler, a lot's been made of how much you can trust freshman-led rosters. And from your perspective, a guy that watches about as much college basketball as anybody, what are some of the pros and cons of like a really kind of blue chip freshman-led roster like Arizona might have in this season under Tommy Lloyd?
Yeah, I think, Tommy's done a pretty good job of that. I know fans get frustrated, myself included. I'm a Wildcats fan at heart. So you get frustrated when you're like, hey, I want to see what all the buzz is about with this new freshman. But Tommy does a good job of kind of bringing them on and installing some confidence. And, we just talked about Braden Burries. I think you have a great problem of that, of like, hey, you have a talented 5-star point guard in your backcourt, but you've also got Jaden Bradley. You've got Anthony Del Orso. So it's one of those assets where you can kind of buy yourself some time, lean on your vets early on in the season, and especially in a game to start the year like Florida, they're going to be battle tested. And then you can kind of let everything take its own course, where it's like, okay, Braden's playing fantastic. Let's give him some more minutes. But I think you want to have a good balance of being able to lean on your guys with, maybe early in the year, and you're like, all right, it's a 2-point game on the road. We need to get some vets in and guys that have been here before, to also being able to be like, okay, we've got opportunity now to get these young guys some more run. And it's a good balance this year. I like this roster a lot. I think there's a good balance of both sides, and they fit pretty well.
Is this Tommy Lloyd's best roster to date, in your opinion?
I don't know if it's the best talented, but it might be the best fitting roster. It feels like everyone's got, their unique role, and where you're not trying to say, hey, who's going to score? And it's going to be a feisty roster that I think has more upside than people might realize. I think Burries pushes the ceiling a little higher. Whatever you're going to get from Pete this year is going to be really interesting, because I think there's serious talent. There's really fun tools. And then, we haven't mentioned Dwayne Aristotle is really fun upside. And I think scouts are fascinated from what I've been hearing is Aristotle. What's he going to look like? This is the perfect 3-and-D for the next level. Is he going to, crack the rotation and get consistent minutes? So this might be Tommy's best, in terms of depth and how those pieces fit for that puzzle. Obviously, we can go back into previous years, and there's a lot of big names on his rosters, but I think this team could be a fun one that's going to surprise some people.
You mentioned Dwayne Aristotle. I am an Aristotelian. All Aristotelians stand up. What kind of season do you anticipate him having? Because there's obviously the direct comparison to Carter Bryant. It's a very easy one to make. But Carter did not really see the floor a ton, or maybe as much as some fans would have wanted him to last year. What kind of year do you see Dwayne Aristotle having for the Wildcats?
I think Dwayne's going to have a big year. I think it's going to be one of those that you're going to have to be patient, though, because we've seen with Tommy, he's not going to just all of a sudden play the freshman right away because they're 5-star recruits or well-known, creating some buzz coming into the year. He's going to make them earn some minutes, play consistently 2 ways, and you gotta earn some trust. So I think Dwayne eventually will kind of find his footing, and 6'8", 230 with that shot, or 220, excuse me. I don't know what Arizona has him listed at, but he can shoot it. He's tough. He's physical. He's got good athleticism. I think it just comes down to the defense. If the defense comes around consistently, and you have a two-way player for them, it's a really important piece, especially for a team like Arizona that could be making a lengthy tournament run. So I think Dwayne's going to have a good year. It's just sometimes, it might take a little bit of time to earn your spot in that rotation.
We've talked about the three most notable freshmen that Arizona's brought in this offseason cycle, all being top 50 recruits. But there's another guy who's made a decent bit of noise here, Tyler, for Arizona since he's come over from overseas from Germany, and that's Ivan Karchenkov, who really just looks impressive, as can be, right? Like he's got the intangibles of that like NBA body that you can't teach. And he seems to have a really balanced skill set to kind of, put it all together. What have you heard and seen from Ivan Karchenkov so far? And what is kind of like the buzz around a guy like that? Because it feels like he was such an unknown, but he looks like an NBA player from the very limited time that we've seen so far from him.
Yeah, Ivan's checks a lot of boxes. When you kind of look into the background, you watch him on tape, like this is a high feel, good frame at 6'7", and he's got experience overseas playing with some of the tougher competition. So immediately he checks a lot of boxes and you get excited. I think the buzz when you talk to scouts is this a one and done, or is this a guy that maybe is like 2 years and he's out? And it's one of those situations now with the NIL and college basketball. Hey, if you're not guaranteed to go in the top 25 picks, you might just say, hey, let me go back for another year. I'll just keep working on my game. So Ivan's kind of the wild card with this freshman class that I think a lot of people are getting excited about, Burries and Pete and even Aristotle. And it's like, okay, they got another one. Another one you got to keep an eye on. So I think this year it's the shot. If the shot is consistently coming around for Ivan, I think there's too many other tools in his game that will get scouts excited really quickly. It's funny how quickly you can create some buzz when it comes to the scouting world. So a strong start to the year for him will do wonders, and he'll be firmly on the radar. I know he is right now. People are intrigued, but definitely another piece for Arizona fans to keep an eye on.
We've talked a lot about the freshmen, but what makes Arizona so dangerous is that you're mixing these top blue chip freshmen and even some underrated ones with very high level returners like Tobe Awaka, Anthony Delorso, Jaden Bradley, Matthias Krivas. I want to key in there on Jaden Bradley though for a second. As you said, you were a Wildcat fan yourself. You must be seeing all of the lists that are coming out about point guards, backcourts, top teams, none of them mentioning Jaden Bradley. Why do you think Jaden Bradley has become so criminally underrated in terms of these like returning point guard conversations?
Maybe the role, just the situation that Jaden was in. Coming over, he had Caleb Love, which we all know how good Caleb Love was for Arizona. But Caleb was kind of the focal point offensively, and it just might have taken away from what Jaden was able to do. I think this is a big year for him. I think it's especially right out of the gate, going against a team like Florida, it's a great opportunity for Jaden to kind of announce himself and showcase what he can do with getting a little bit more responsibility. So yeah, those preseason lists are always fun, especially when you see them and you're like, wait, you have who there? So I think Jaden's going to have a really good year for Tommy and Arizona, and it's going to be fascinating to kind of see. He's been a guy I think just keeps getting better each year. And I'm really curious to see what it's going to look like when he has more of a role and more responsibility this year, because I think he could surprise some folks.
It starts tonight, right? It starts tonight against Florida with a premier backcourt matchup when you look at it. Braden Burries, Jaden Bradley, Xavian Lee, Boogie Fland. And those are two of those guards that you might see on those lists higher than a Jaden Bradley, whether we agree with it or not. I think that it just goes to show that this is going to be premier top of the line talent in both those backcourt groups tonight for Florida and Arizona. How do you anticipate that matchup going, and what are you looking for in particular between those four players?
We usually don't get this type of matchup for like the first 2 months of the year. So it's unbelievable that it's the first game of the year. It's going to be a really big test for Arizona. And it's two new transfers for Florida and Boogie Fland coming from Arkansas and Xavian Lee from Princeton. But those are big time transfers. The Boogie's very talented, kind of just had an up and down year, but a big time recruit and a little smaller, but he's feisty on ball, pretty quick, good mid range game. So he's going to be hungry to showcase that, hey, I'm bouncing back this year. I want to make some noise and improve my draft stock. Because that's what everyone's trying to do these days. And Xavian Lee, people, if you're not familiar, might hear like, oh, he's coming from Princeton. It's like, no, Xavian Lee can play. He's 6'4". I believe last year against, Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, he had a triple double. So, I mean, he's very, very talented. And then you get the rest of the rosters coming back from winning a national championship. So it's a good opening matchup for Arizona to kind of say like, hey, no one expects us to be in this one. But you get to find out a lot. You got to bring your A game right out of the gate. And I think that whole roster, and Tommy Lloyd's probably sending the same message. Like, no one's expecting us to do this. So you guys got to, there's a small room for error with mistakes. But I think, the backcourt we've talked about for Arizona, it's going to be tested. Braden Burries is going to be thrown into the fire. But it's like, hey, what better opportunity do you want? And I think that's what is going to be really fascinating. I think Arizona, that roster is going to be fired up tonight because they know everyone's watching and no one believes they could pull this off. So it's going to be fascinating to see how it works.
You mentioned the backcourt. I want to talk a little bit more about this front court matchup because it feels like Arizona is one of the only teams in the country that can actually put out a semblance of a front court that looks like Florida's, right? Florida has one of the tallest front courts in the country, if not the tallest. I haven't seen the KenPom rankings yet this year, but what do you make of that front court matchup? And where should Arizona fans be watching tonight when they're looking at the front court in this one?
A big Krivas opportunity tonight. We were talking about Krivas as a prospect last year that a lot of us thought could make a first round jump at no ceilings. This was a guy that we're like, hey, good size, good feel, tough on the boards, and obviously gets injured, misses most of the year. And now it's, hey, you get a chance to go right back and make that noise loud because he's going to go up against Alex Condon. Florida's got a good roster. So this is a great opportunity for Arizona, not only just for, hey, in the scouting community, but to kind of say, hey, how do you stack up against the team that just won it? So I think, Toby's going to be big too. It's an opportunity I think I like Arizona on the boards a little bit better just because of the toughness, the size, the physicality they have. Condon's really talented, but I think he's more of a finesse big. And then, Thomas Houck is probably one of Florida's best prospects. And they said they're going to play him on the 3. So I'm fascinated to see how that works out. But it's going to be, it's a showdown tonight featuring just fantastic matchups across the board. So it's going to be really interesting to see kind of the adjustments coaches make and the rotations and who's coming off the bench and what it's going to look like. It's just going to be a really fun experience for basketball fans.
Do you have a prediction in this one, Tyler? Do you have a take on who potentially takes home the first game of the season for Arizona and Florida?
I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think because I think it's just going to match up really, really well. I'll be biased. I'm going to say Arizona pulls it out and shocks the world, and we get oh my gosh, they just did this. They pulled it off. So I'm going to go with Arizona Wildcats. I'll say it's a 3-point win, and we're all sweating bullets till the end.
Absolutely love it, Mr. Rucker. And I had one last question before we get out of here, just because I do know that you are glued to your television screen all day long. And I want to know from one of the king college basketball sickos out there, what is the sicko matchup of the day today? Like, what's the one that basketball fans need to be locked in on that maybe they wouldn't know just looking at the surface? Because Florida, Arizona, everybody knows that that's a big matchup. But I want to hear you say St. Bonaventure. Yeah, I know they played earlier, but something along those lines.
I'm going to say Campbell in Wisconsin. I like that one a little bit. I'm cheating a little bit because I just looked real quick. I was like, gosh, there's so many games going on today. But Wisconsin's got a prospect that everyone should get familiar with, John Blackwell, and he's a junior. So that's about as sick as I get right now. But you give me another 20 minutes, I'll be like, oh, this one's good. So yeah, a lot of screens going on tonight. It's a fun day for basketball fans.
Whichever game is next is the sicko matchup of the day when you're over at No Ceilings, if you're Tyler Rucker, if you're Tyler Metcalf. Two guys that have been so gracious with their time recently with me and Kevin here. Kevin, did you have anything else for Tyler before we get out of here?
No, but a quick congratulations to not only Tyler, but the whole No Ceilings team with the NBA partnership. That is a really, really cool opportunity. Steven getting a shout out on the broadcast as well. Yeah, very cool stuff. Is there anything you'd like to shout out in that same vein, Tyler, before we get out of here?
No, you guys, thank you for having me on. This is a great show. Shout yourselves out, come on. This is a big time of the year for Wildcats fans. Get excited about some Arizona Wildcats basketball. It's going to be a very fun year with, this conference. There's so much talent in the Big 12. So every week, every single game, it feels like Arizona's going to have a fun matchup. So just enjoy it. But thank you guys so much for the kind words and having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out Tyler Rucker. Shout out the No Ceilings crew. Go follow Tyler at Tyler_Rucker on social media, and No Ceilings NBA as well. Appreciate you, Tyler, and we look forward to talking to you in the future, my guy.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Shout out Tyler Rucker. Shout out No Ceilings. And shout out everybody who stuck along until the end of that interview. We know we ate into the game here, but we're going to go straight into our watch along. So if you guys want to hang out, kick it back, watch the game with us, drop a like on this video and stick on our channel. We're going to end this stream and go straight into our watch along in just a mere minute or two. So be there for that. And appreciate everybody for watching this one. I'm Damon Dog. That's Kevo Post. We're the AZ Wildcats pod. Follow us at PHNX_Wildcats, and we'll see you on the watch along.
We all silly like the mayor.